It's the 1st of July. The main character, named George, needs money to develop a mobile app to track patterns. He plans to analyze the world market and to track the value of commodities on stock exchanges. The man is confirmed to fund the project, which he calls Emergency Lights. In the morning, George learns the wonderful news that his girlfriend is pregnant. The couple arranges a magnificent wedding, where many acquaintances and relatives gather. 3 months pass. Morbidity in the city continues to grow at a shocking rate. The death toll is reported to be much higher than predicted. On Christmas Eve, the incidence of the deadly virus is on the rise. News outlets are warning of the possible dangers, as overnight deaths in the UK are at high rates. Hospitals are nearly running out of space and the government is opening new emergency departments. Residents of Britain are asked to go out only in case of emergency. It turns out that the events shown above were just George's horrible dream. It's the 1st of July again. Waking up, the man hears the same words he dreamt. George takes the same route to the bank again, and reminds the lender that he has already approved the loan. The man's words become strange to the inhabitants, for all events are repeated only to him. The loan is not approved for George, and he returns home. The guy admits that all the events have already happened, and he goes back in time. At night, George tries to find information about the spread of a deadly virus. Sarah is disturbed by the boy's strange information, and asks him to seek help from psychologists. The next day, the girl notices George doing strange things again. The guy is in a hazmat suit, and creates respiratory masks. George repeats again about the future danger, for he wants to keep his family safe, but Sarah refuses to believe the guy's insanity. The girl goes away to live with her mother for a while so that George can regain consciousness. Left all alone with his thoughts, the boy goes out for a little walk. In the yard, he is met by a strange girl who tells him about the time loops. It turns out they weren't dreams, but a real future that will happen soon. The girl leaves her card, and invites George to the address if the flashes happen again. The guy walks the empty streets trying to find the building from the business card, but is transported again to the Christmas holidays. The time loops repeat themselves. On the news, a deadly virus is reported again, and he is urged to stay home. After another return to the hospital, the guy wakes up. It's the 1st of July again, and kisses in bed. George is about to go back to the bank, but goes to the address from the business card. In the huge building, he is greeted by a woman, whom he met earlier. She tells him that the cells in the man's body were subject to severe mutations. The changes force him to live the events again, and to affect the temporal flashes. It turns out that the girl is a member of the Lazarus Project, an international organization that prevents the means of mass extinction of mankind. Lazarus's workers plan and build temporal loops to protect the modern world. Girl tells us that the end of the world has come several times. The first was in 1963, when Russia and America launched nuclear warheads at each other. The second was in 1979, when Pakistan reacted seriously to the assassination of its prime minister by an Indian agent. The extreme end of the world was yesterday, when Lazarus failed to produce a vaccine against the deadly Mersian virus. All the ends of the world were prevented by Project Lazarus. The company only uses temporary outbreaks when absolutely necessary. George is escorted through the long corridors of the company, and told about the singularity of space technology. The 1st of July each year is the benchmark for the preservation of temporal loops. Mankind got a vaccine for COVID-19 in just 10 months, but the company has been developing drugs for years. Quantum physics, and the cosmic singularity, allows time to return to prevent global catastrophes. The girl suggests that George forget about the loans, and the financing of the analytical application, because his abilities are incredible. She invites him to work for the company, and to save humanity's lives. After the conversation, George returns home, and pleases Sarah with the news of the loan approval. The guy starts working at Lazarus, where he meets Elizabeth Veasley, the head of the project, and the rest of the company's mutants. Every time the project saves humanity, the employees celebrate a high-profile event at karaoke, where George is invited. The company has fun, and drinks in a relaxed atmosphere. One of the employees explains to the guy that his capabilities will not be appreciated by humanity. Working at Lazarus changes people greatly, and breaks their psyche. The humiliation of the worker does not affect George, and he goes off to sing karaoke. The guy's life changes a lot. He studies quantum numbers, develops computer technology, and learns to shoot. Work is too tiring for George, but he finds time for family vacations. He and Sarah go to Carl's, where they have a good time. The analyst helps put the money in the right direction, because he knows his business. At the same time as working for the company, George continues to develop a stock exchange application. The guy notices that the algorithm he used in his application tracks suspicious activity on bank accounts, among which are fraud, insider trading, and other things. The Russian bank has strange receipts that could not have been involved with the accounts of ordinary users. It turns out that the Russian account was used by big boy employees, led by terrorist Demis Rebrov. This man was one of Lazarus's best employees, but he was doing illegal activities in time loops. Again comes the 1st of July, the starting point of George's return as an agent. On her way to work, Sarah meets Carl, whose investments have fallen badly. The problem becomes the fact that it was George who analyzed the stock, and the guy wants to get his money back. He believes that Sarah's boyfriend did it on purpose to steal the guy's money accounts, after which he runs the girl off the road. Luckily, George saves Sarah, but Carl's stupid act doesn't come around. The guys have a showdown, but quickly disperse, as George did not take responsibility for the stock drops. Miss Elizabeth mines information about Rebrov's whereabouts. They track down people who have been in the vicinity of the house to find out important information about the warheads. The team is about to leave for Paris, and sets out to collect the documents. George heads out on his debut flight to save humanity from a nuclear explosion. The team captures all of the patrolmen's actions, through security cameras. The SWAT team blocks the emergency exits from the office, and enters the buildings to survey the area. The patrol's communication is lost, but is soon restored. Archie goes down to the basement, where the girl is killed from behind. This event angers the boys, and they set out to follow Rebrov, who rides out of the core on a motorcycle. The teammates pick up the truck, and call in several patrol cars, which also try to block the perpetrator's actions. Several cars crash, but the truck with George makes it through the crowded streets. A comrade gives the command to shoot, but George misses several times. Rebrov crashes against the walls of the store, but does not lose consciousness. With a remote button, Rebrov causes a huge explosion in the office. And events repeat themselves again. It's the 1st of July on the calendar, as the time loop has moved the surgery back. George gets a late-night call from Archie, where the girl is reborn. The project allots George a few days off to rest well after the failed surgery. The next day, the guy walks Sarah back to work. George receives messages from the company asking him to fly to France immediately. It turns out that the patrolmen have detained several people and need to conduct an interrogation. The guy says goodbye to his beloved, and leaves for the company. For a moment, the guy forgets that events repeat themselves, and fails to save Sarah. The girl gets hit by a garbage truck, and a lot of people run to the scene. Summer 2018. Ross and Archie are trying to find bugs in the program while sitting on the roof of a high-rise building. Teammates watch another end of the world, and nuclear missiles fly by, blowing up the city. We are transported to real time. While talking to George, Archie says that Rebrov's men have been caught by patrol troops. After which, the guys leak the location of Demis's hideout. The call cuts out and George goes to the hospital where Sarah is being operated on after an accident. Archie finds the guy in the hospital and tries to calm him down. The nurse explains that the girl has been operated on, but it is not yet known when she will regain consciousness. George checks on Sarah in her room, and begins to notice strange memories again. The time shifts to the summer of 2018. The guy is partying at a party of acquaintances where he and Sarah first met. He fell in love with the girl at first sight, and he can't lose her now. George tells the story of the acquaintance, Archie, who tries to support him. The girl herself, on the other hand, recalls her mission, which also happened in the summer of 2018, but failed. The comrades go up to George's apartment, where they try to calm down a bit. They have a drink, and recall events from the past. Archie explains that the memory may not come back at all, or it may come back partially. Events return to the summer of 2018. Rebrov and Archie sit in military service, and explain the tragic consequences of the invasion of Kazakhstan. If the planes are shot down, the whole world is subject to nuclear war, and killer missiles. Apparently, Lazarus's words were unimpressive, and could not change the future. Influential people can change the opinions of military personnel, and rule out tragic endings for humanity. But, unfortunately, Lazarus's team does not have an impressive voice in owning the world. The likelihood of a third world war increases, but people do not believe in the consequences of their stupid decisions, and continue to destroy the universe. We return to real events. George and Archie go to the science station, where they talk about time loops. The girl has seen important world events erased, and social movements, the ones that change the world. Therefore, the company does not consider the option of going back in time, for progress goes deep backwards. She explains that George cannot simply turn back time and save his beloved Sarah. Events once again return to the summer of 2018. We observe a small pub, crowded with people. Archie and Ross, having a few beers, and pondering diplomatic concepts. They return to the old apartment, where Ross is snacking on a donut. The guy suggests that the girl move in with him, but instead of answering, Archie blows up the diplomat's car. The girl promises to think about the offer, because she's not ready yet. At this time, Sarah slowly regains consciousness. George recalls a party that took place in the summer of 2018. In the stairwell, he meets a girl, Haley, who explains the meaning of parties. During this time, Archie tells Ross that she's sick of breaking Jim's heart. The guy reminds the girl, again, of the proposal to move in together, but she ignores it. George changes the music CD in the player, and meets Sarah. She asks for the CD back, because these are the girl's favorite songs. George becomes interested in the pretty girl, and they get to know each other. Moments later, a fire breaks out in the apartment and people leave the building. George takes the girl's bag and runs out into the street. We return to the real events. A comrade suggests that George take revenge on the garbage truck driver who hit his girlfriend. They go to the small village where the driver lives. The guys plan to take out the door and attack the perpetrator. During the 2018 shootout, Ross reminds them again about moving into a new apartment. The conversation doesn't last long, as the girl wakes up after a nightmarish time loop. The 1st of July is back on the calendar, and what's happening in the dream are just flashes that bring back memories. In the middle of the night, Archie gets a phone call. It's Ross calling to remind him of the team death in the time flashback. They arrange to meet at the airport and figure out their future plans. Archie confesses that she has fallen out of love with Jim and can no longer hide it. In the meantime, the guys go to Rebroff's cell, who has been detained by patrol officers. They ask where the big boy warhead is hiding, but Demis again emphasizes that time has gone backwards, so he doesn't know where the nuclear weapon is. Rebroff tells us that the people selected for the project are the most ordinary creatures, who are not at all lucky enough to be in this abominable community. The world wants to die, but humanity refuses to accept the facts. The next day, Archie meets Ross at the airport. They discuss the revolution and the coup de grace of World War III. The couple finally kiss and are about to move in together. The military threatens to escalate the conflict as fascists continue to break into power. Events continue to repeat themselves, the rallies and the fascist protests continue. Archie and Ross's plans fall apart, and everything repeats over and over again. Whenever they raise opposition against the government, the Prime Minister handles them. Ross says that the Prime Minister failed once, but that was after her death. He assures the girl that the pair can close the time loop and get what they want. After these events, Ross goes to a meeting at a restaurant. On the way to the table, Jim's covert agents, killing an employee, inform the girl from Lazarus. At the same time, George learns that Sarah has not regained consciousness and has died in intensive care. Archie and George's lives completely change, filled with sadness and loneliness. Tears break their hearts, for they have lost the most important thing in their lives. George returns to Rebroff, where he recounts all the indignities. The guy's heart was broken, and it's happened in several lives. But he is sure that in this life, they should have stayed together. Demis suggests to the guy only to return to Lazarus and talk about returning the checkpoint to prevent Sarah's death. Will the protagonist be able to forget all the events of the past and start love all over again?